Welcome back to Uncinched, where we uncinch what's really going on in the horse world.
Today's episode is watching your balance, and we don't mean your seat when riding. This episode is all about balancing life with horses, career, and passion, and most importantly, balance between you and your horse.
It's easy to lose that balance, especially when you're early in your career, working long hours, or just trying to afford keeping horses in your life. So that's what sparked the idea of creating this episode today.
We're going to chat about how we as humans maintain balance in our lives and different ways it affects the longevity of our horse era. More specifically, we're going to talk about finances, time management, and burnout. We also want to talk about how your ability to maintain balance not only affects your life, but your horses as well.
As we all know, horses aren't machines. We see them as companions and partners in crime. A friendship, if you will. To maintain any healthy friendship, it requires patience, communication, and presence. Balancing expectations and the needs of each partner in the relationship is very important. Life balance has a huge impact on your mental health, and being mindful of where your head is at and when you're feeling overwhelmed or dysregulated can sometimes be an indication that your life balance is in need of some attention, work, or changing of habits.
We're both in our 20s, and I know we both are no stranger to the expenses that horses bring, while also being, in the grand scheme of things, quite young in our careers. You have to work so many long hours and jump on every opportunity that comes your way, as what if you missed a big one that would have propelled you forward and opened more doors? I think anyone in kind of our age group is feeling that, no matter what career they're going into right now.
And in this economy, financial stress is no joke. It causes anxiety, sleepless nights, and within that we can often lose sight of what's important. And that's why we want to talk about it here on Uncinched. Financial strain in the horse world is very real. And let's be honest, if you are integrated in the horse world in any manner, you know that it is not cheap. It's probably one of the most expensive hobbies out there, and financial strain can be a huge factor in why your work-life balance is faltering. If finances are getting the better of you and you are looking for realistic solutions to help with the rising costs, these are some of our recommendations.
If your horse is able, get it leased out. Leasing your horse can help offset costs by bringing some money in that can go towards your horse's bills and expenses. Obviously, if you're leasing them out, finding a suitable leaser is a priority for your horse's well-being, but also for safety of both your horse and the rider. Because let's be honest, a 10-year-old girl who's only had a few lessons is a beginner rider. While she might be super passionate about that horse, she probably isn't the best choice if you have a really spunky, spicy mare who requires a more advanced partnership. I think that could become a very quick liability. So choosing a suitable leaser is important. And also remembering, it's only horses that are able to. If your horse is three-legged lame, don't be leasing it out.
Another option to think of is if you love horses, but the finances are not quite at the point where you can own your own yet, but you just want to do more than lessons. That doesn't mean that you can't be involved in the horse industry. Just like you being able to lease out your own horse, you are able to lease someone else's. This can often give you the partnership that you crave without the extremities of the financial commitment owning a horse has. We don't want either party to feel taken advantage of. With that being said, make sure that you take the time to meet up with the owner and the horse to figure out if they are both the right fit for you. You need to be on the same page with the owner on what they are willing to share with that horse with you, and you also need to make sure that that horse is a fit for you as well. Each horse is an individual, and they all might not be the perfect fit.
Lastly, and this one is actually often the hardest, is creating a budget. You know, it sounds like such an easy step, but it's so easy to do it wrong. We often want to budget for the lifestyle that we want and all the things that we want for our horse especially, because I think every horse owner, or most of them anyways, it's like, I want to get them the latest, greatest, and this halter's so cute, it'll look so pretty with their mane, you know, whatever it is. But it's really important that you budget for the lifestyle that you currently have, not the one that you want to have. It's always great to have goals and financial goals and stuff like that, but you have to budget for what you have currently. The lack of budget is often a big cause of financial strains to ourselves as we spend beyond our means, and it can get us into trouble where we incur debt. Obviously, shit happens, and sometimes there's unexpected expenses out of our control or circumstances change, but making a general month-to-month budget based on your life factors can make a difference in spending habits and knowing where your money is going, because I think that's the biggest thing. You then know where you're allotting your money. Those little purchases that you really think don't matter can really add up when you aren't paying attention. Maybe skipping the dishes and incurring delivery and service fees instead of just sucking it up and making the food at home that you've already bought isn't the best use of your funds that month.
I feel called out.
Oh, I'm calling myself out just as much.
I'm a victim of skip the dishes.
This is not to say you can't have splurges. Okay, you can keep your skip the dishes when you want it, and you can treat yourself or your horse. However, you need to budget those expenses in. So if you're like, I'm a big skip the dishes lady, then I need to put that into my budget and saying like, hey, this is something that I'm willing to sacrifice other monetary things for. So making sure that you are creating a budget that's balanced for your lifestyle, not what other people are doing, but what you're wanting. Because you might think Disney Plus is more important than, I don't even know, that one video game that you really wanted. So you have to choose between the two. Which one do you want more? And that's okay. Budgeting for these type of little expenses can at least give you insight to where your money is going and how you wish to use it, especially with financial constraints. If you have financial strain, knowing where your money's going, knowing where you want your money to go is really important. Remember, you're not less than for making practical financial choices. I know sometimes it feels like, oh, I prioritized this bill or this situation instead of going out with friends, and people are like, oh, you don't go out. It's not making you less than for choosing different avenues for your financial choices. You are giving yourself smart habits and skills to have a successful financial future with horses.
If this is something you want to work on or need help with, we have created a financial budget document that you can use. Head on over to our link tree, and hopefully this can offer you some structure if you do not know where to start.
Moving on from financial impacts on balancing life with horses, let's chat about how time is also a huge impact on our life balance teeter-totter. So sometimes we have this mentality that we can do it all. And I know that's something I in particular struggle with. You can ask any of my family or friends. They think I'm a little crazy because I often be like, oh, it's fine, I got this. Even though I often do not got this and I need a little bit of extra hands. I think it's something many equestrians actually in particular struggle with. This idea that we can juggle everything on our own, working, family, other pets, other commitments, training, feeding, hauling, vet care, all of it. The list goes on. But the truth of the matter is, when we overfill our plate, the food starts to fall off and everything gets messy and it just sucks.
Sometimes we need help to make things work. Asking for help from your community, friends, and network doesn't mean you aren't capable, but it can help ease the expectations and time constraints that you put on yourself.
I know I use my partner to help me with maximizing my time, and I'm sure you can say the same, Taya, but obviously we cannot solely rely on others to maintain our tasks and scheduling because they're not our little assistants.
Or our bitches.
Yeah, exactly. So we need to just make sure we're mindful of other people's time commitments to their own lives as well. However, asking for help every once in a while to get things done can help with the time horse balance for sure. Mighty dandy. We understand that seasons of work and life can sometimes take over, and oftentimes if your career isn't around horses, or maybe it is, you struggle to get to your own horses. Leasing your own horse can not only help with financial strain, but it can also help with the time strain if you're in a heavy work season. Again, Remembering horses have needs, and one of those needs is exercise and companionship. They need companionship. They're herd animals. If your life is simply too busy right now, that's okay. We're not saying that you have to be there every season, every hour, all the time, but you need to be open to other options, potentially like leasing your horse so that its needs are being met. Obviously, that's situationally based, as some horses are just menaces to society, but it can help you feel less guilt and stress about getting to your horse. I know for me, when I get into really heavy seasons of work, I can feel this guilt build up inside of me of like, oh man, I'm not prioritizing the horse the way I'd like to. And so being able to ease some of that feeling, I think, is important.
Another thing to think about, if perhaps finances aren't as big of an issue, but time is, you could hire a trainer to ride your horse. A trainer can ensure that your horse is getting the physical exercise it needs, and hiring a trusted professional can give you the peace of mind knowing that your horse is in good hands and getting quality work done. Maybe you and your horse are struggling with lead changes. Well, if you're busy at work for a couple of months or something like that, ask your trainer to specifically work on what you're struggling, like lead changes, and then this way that precious time is not going to waste and your horse is going to continue to advance, even if you're not the one doing it.
And you know, if you're looking for a trainer to help with that, just a little quick plug for Taya. She is a trainer. And she can help you with lead changes.
Yes, I can.
Maybe you don't want to get a trainer because it is still a financial commitment, but you aren't looking for anything to help with finances. It's just you don't want to spend money. Maybe your horse is bomb-proof and good with kids, and it would be a good fit for a lesson program at your barn. Allowing that program to use them can get them mental and physical stimulation while also helping someone learn. How cool is that? What a rewarding way to get your horse the work they need while also helping someone begin or advance their journey in the horse world. You know, isn't it great to think, what about like that little 10-year-old girl who it's their first time working with horses, and now your horse helps them in this journey to become a worldwide show jumper one day. It's a nice thing to think about. Mm-hmm. It also eases your scheduling constraints on working your horse if you're finding it harder to come as often, especially if you only have dedicated times and there happens to be lessons during those times in the arena. Because I think we've all been there where we're like, I can come in at this time. And you look at the arena schedule and you go, damn it.
There's 40 children in there. I can't ride my crazy colt with 40 children in there.
Also, don't put your crazy colt in the lesson program.
Unless you don't like kids.
Or your horse.
Another thing to think about, if you don't have access to a lesson program where you can put your horse in, if you know that your time with your horse is limited, but you've got a half an hour to get in the saddle, make sure that you make the most of that half an hour. It's amazing what you can get done with a mindful half-hour session versus an hour and a half session that is unorganized and unplanned.
Yeah, you know, taking that time to kind of maybe plan a little bit of a lesson plan for yourself, mm-hmm. or like what you want to do in that session instead of just going there and being like, I'll see what happens.
Yeah, let's hope and pray.
I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes, but I'm trying to be better, so can you. Speaking of time constraints, if you are in a heavy season and are feeling the weight of it, we really want to speak on something that can be a byproduct of overworking, overstressing, and that is burnout.
We think it's important to define what burnout is, what it looks like, as you may be experiencing it without even realizing.
Some of the physical symptoms that you can expect if you are experiencing burnout is chronic or persistent fatigue, changes in your sleep, like waking up often in the night more and tossing and turning, struggling to maintain being asleep, changes in your appetite, such as like an increase or decrease in how much you're eating, and changing of your eating habits. Maybe you were often enjoying salads and now all you crave is fats and oils. That's a sign that something's kind of going awry. You're getting headaches, pain in your muscles, and other physical aches and pains. Do you get sick more often? from a weakened immune system? Have you found that you have more continuous stomach aches that are random, and some nausea or digestive problems and upset that aren't usual? Those are all physical symptoms. Some emotional or mental impacts can be that you're feeling drained, overwhelmed, unable to cope with the demands of the things asked of you, whether at work, your social life, or your family life. Having a more negative outlook or different attitude towards work and life. Feeling like your work or your effort is undervalued and that you aren't achieving enough. Feeling of hopelessness, that defeat. A complete loss of motivation, trouble focusing or remembering or completing tasks. You might even have some more irritability, impatience, and you're more prone to outbursts. More frequent symptoms of anxiety or depression. And you may not be noticing signs, but others might be. And some behavior changes that you might notice from somebody experiencing burnout is that they have a reduced performance or productivity at their workplace or just in life in general. They might withdraw and isolate and pull away from social gatherings, activities, and relationships. Putting responsibilities and tasks off, always saying they'll get to it later, that procrastination almost. You might even see changes in work habits, like they arrive late when they never used to. They're trying to leave early all the time, or they're not really engaged in the work they're doing. These are all signs of burnout, and we want to make sure that you know what that looks like so that if you're experiencing it, you can get the right resources for yourself.
Absolutely. And being stressed and dysregulated affects your horse. Being anxious or worried about something else affects your horse. Not being present affects your horse. We feel it's important that we take accountability for our own mental health as it affects the horse. If you are an equine professional especially, this affects your career. Sorry, not sorry. If you are experiencing strain or lack of time or burnout, here's some food for thought for you.
All right, this is going to go more towards our fellow equine professionals out there.
Whoop, whoop.
Don't worry, horse owners and viewers. We will get to you as well. We just want to get to our fellow equestrian professionals for the moment. So burnout from horses can cause us to be less willing and patient with our own. We've all experienced it where you've been spending all day either riding, working maybe a challenging colt. You've been doing body work on so many different horses with so many different personalities and needs, or trimming hooves and your back is sore and you're just not feeling it anymore. You may feel a little horsed out, if you will. And you might think, man, I just don't feel like going to the barn. I don't feel like working my own horse after spending all my time with other horses. This happens. We get it. We've been there too. I've definitely had times where I'm like, oh man, I've just worked with all these horses and I just don't feel like it. And I'm not saying that you're not allowed to have those feelings, but if you're feeling like that is happening a lot, remember, your horse still wants that connection. They still want your partnership and the stimulation from you. You are their friend, and you still need to make time for them.
How do we manage this? How do you maintain passion, presence, and patience with them after having to do it all day with other horses? Well, here are some things that we have found as equine professionals that have helped us.
So number one, you need to find non-horse hobbies and day-to-day things. When we're around horses 24/7, we need something that can break up that time and break up that moment of always being in that space. So maybe you want to go on nature walks, meditation, you start an art project or reading or yoga, whatever floats your boat, honestly. Just find something outside of working with horses, something outside of that passion that fills your cup and maintains your life battery. If we're constantly running on empty, we are not efficient in anything, and especially not in our job with horses or our own horse's life. I wanted you to think of it like this. You know your phone battery, we're all attached to our phones at the hip. We see that when that battery starts to die, we start to panic. You know, that same goes for us. The longer you use your phone, which is just your battery in life, the more likely it is to die. It may die slowly, but it will still eventually require recharging. And the same goes for yourself. If you use your phone with more complex demands, like you're always on Google and you're doing 10 different tasks at a time, it will kill the battery faster and deplete it more than if you were just opening it to look at the clock the whole time. And it requires recharging sooner. And that's just like us. So if we're constantly go, 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 and we don't allow that moment of recharge, and we don't allow that moment of reconnection to something that fills our cup, we're just going to completely deplete ourselves, and we'll lose the passion, we'll lose the ability to see the good in our work and in our horse ownership.
Another thing to think of too, I've always kind of struggled trying to find hobbies outside of horses because I like to be good at things. But what's great about non-horse hobbies is that it oftentimes helps your horsemanship too. For example, your nature walks, they can help you be present in the moment. Art can help you with attention to detail. Reading is a great learning resource. Meditation is a great way to help with mental clarity and focus. And yoga can help with body awareness, body control, and flexibility in those tight hips. All of those things can help your horsemanship, and you don't even have to touch a horse.
Basically, long story short, you need to find a hobby that brings you joy, calmness, not frustration, so that you can bring that back to your horse. That hobby is going to be different for everyone, so make sure you find something that fills your battery. And if you don't know what that is right now, guess what? That's okay. You can try anything you want and learn something new about yourself. You might try knitting and it just ain't for you, or try art and you go, wow, I'm really bad at painting. But you tried, and then you move on to something, and you might be really bad at something, but you really like it. Guess what? Another fun fact, you'll always get better the more you do something. So if you enjoy it, it doesn't matter if you suck. Just keep going. We all have to start somewhere.
So maybe you're doing all the right things, you're filling your cup, you're doing your new hobby, you're a professional knitter now, but you're still finding that you're getting more frustrated with your horses. Your patience is feeling non-existent. My advice is be honest with yourself. Is this adding value, or am I just going through the motions?
And to be honest, when you need to take some time off from horses, oftentimes we just need a little bit of a break to get back on track and to feel like ourselves again. If you have control over your own schedule, make sure you schedule time off. We all need that little staycation. I'm not saying you have to go on a week-long trip to the Bahamas. Maybe you just need a popcorn and movie night by yourself. You just need something to give you out of that spunk and funk and give you just some time to yourself. You deserve to rest. If you don't do it for yourself, rest for your horse or your clients.
And speaking of scheduling, horse people are usually workaholics. Make sure you schedule days off and set boundaries with yourself and your clients so that you can make sure that you stay mentally and emotionally on track for your horses and your clients. This can be hard, but it's important for your longevity in this career space.
Truly, I think I've struggled with that before where, a client can only do a certain date and I've already booked that off for myself and I just don't want to lose them or disappoint them. I think that's a big thing. I don't want to disappoint them. So I let them schedule on days that I should really be taking for myself. And it's something I'm trying to learn a boundary on. But I think as all equine professionals, we really need to work on that because we're allowed to have time off and we're allowed to have days where we just don't want clients.
And that time off is so important and is going to give your clients and the horses that you're working with a better version of you.
Totally.
Which is so important. You don't want to be running on 5% battery and giving only 5% of your heart and soul to your horses or the people that you're teaching or the people that you're working with. You want to make sure that you are giving your best version of yourself. And if that requires you to take some time off, make sure you prioritize that.
The other thing is we talk about giving it all, but it will affect how your customers and clients see you. So if you're only giving that 5% like Taya suggested, it reflects. And so you might not get a nice review, or they may look at you and go, wow, this wasn't the quality I expected.
Or she looks like crap. She's tired.
Yeah, I don't want to send my horse here because she clearly is too
stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah, your horse feels it.
Depleted.
Yeah.
It does affect your work. So it looks better for you to be well rested.
Mm-hmm. How can you add value when you have nothing to give?
Great question. Lastly, but absolutely not least, we need to balance not just our relationships with life, but our relationships with our horses. While horses require a large financial and time commitment, the horse really can't comprehend that. And they don't owe us anything because of that. We made that decision. We decided to bring that on to ourselves and bring it into our lives. They're just kind of there and like, hey, you chose me. That's pretty sick.
If you're a heavy shower chasing buckles and ribbons, or maybe you're a very busy and the only thing you can do with your chubby mare is cardio to keep her fit as possible, one thing we want to bring attention to is the importance of a balanced relationship with your horse. Doing things like just hanging out with your horse, playing with them, grooming them an extra long time. Those things can often go down on the priority list, but it has a big impact on what your horse feels and experiences when it's around you. And just like in humans, horses can get their own versions of burnout as well.
Absolutely. When you are always making it performance over partnership, you can lose that connection that you have with your horse. Scheduling and being intentional on relationship time between you and your horse is so important in maintaining a healthy, positive relationship with them, regardless if you're a big time shower or just a casual trail rider, because like I said, you are in a partnership. It's relational. And if it's always just this expectation and demand and need from them, instead of giving them the space to be a horse, like, let's be real, horses are goofy, they're fun, they're a little bit silly at times. And if we can't give them the space to be like that, that's not fair either.
Mm-hmm. I kind of always think, what are they getting out of this? The horse doesn't get the ribbon. They don't hang it up or care about it, right? They don't wear the buckle. What are they getting out of this? Your horse should be excited to see you. They should let you catch them. And they should feel like they're enjoying the work that they're doing because they get to spend time with you. And if you don't feel that, that's okay. That's where we come in to offer some food for thought to help you and your horse get in a happy vibe. So what are ways that you can restore and create balance in you and your horse's relationship?
Well, you can designate days without training agendas. That's a big one. You know, if you're a big competitor, whether in the English, Western, racing, whatever world you're coming from that has anything to do with equine, you want to make sure that you're giving days where you're just spending time, you know, with your horse that isn't involving training and perfection and the same thing over and over. You want to seek fun and relaxed moments together, you know, find out what does your horse like. You know, what are their play styles? Maybe it's really hot out and you set up a sprinkler and they just adore it. They just start to lick at it and run around and have some fun. Seek those moments of enjoyment. Maybe they like to play with a giant ball. Maybe they don't. Some horses are like, what the hell is that? So making sure that you're seeking what they enjoy, not what you enjoy, is really important. Maybe they love levity. I know my horse personally, it's like one of his favorite things, and I use it as a tool to kind of relax because he just really engages and enjoys it.
Maybe they're like my mare Coco and they love their ass being rubbed. She will literally shove her ass on you so that you pet her, and that's like her biggest love language is bum scratches.
I can confirm, as she's done it to me on multiple occasions, like backed right up into you and is like, come on.
Mm-hmm. If you don't know her, you think like, this chick is lining up to give me a double barrel kick. But no. She just wants a good butt scratch.
Mental stimulation is also a really good way to maintain balance without overworking or underworking them. We always talk about overworking, but there's also the alternative of underworking because every horse has different requirements and needs. And sometimes they need way more than maybe, you know, just hanging out with you for a few hours. Even if they are an arthritic horse or they are older, sometimes they still need other exercise and stimulation. There are horses in different life stages and have different personalities. They also have different needs. For example, like if you have a 4-year-old, chances are they require a lot more work and training than a 20-year-old does. As like a general rule, you need to make sure you're matching their energy levels and their workload to what their life and personality is.
Mm-hmm. So we wanted to give you guys a bit of an example of what equine burnout might look like or might feel like. And I have a bit of a story to tell you about one of my own horses. Pete, my gelding, in June of 2023, hurt himself and ended up bandaged for just under a year. For the sake of time, I won't go into the details, but he essentially had an open wound in an area prone to proud flesh, and as a result, I had to do a lot of debriding. If you don't know what that is, it's basically exfoliating the proud flesh. We dealt with numerous infections, complications, and because of the debriding, it took its sweet ass time to heal. I spent months with Pete where every time we were together, I was causing him some sort of pain or irritation because I was attending to his wound daily. And as time went on, he was getting real sick of my shit. And he got harder and harder to bandage as a result. He was burnt out. After months of our relationship solely being me doctoring him, he was done with me. So I had to get creative on how I was going to make this experience for him a bit better so that he could heal properly and so that he'd like me after he was healed. So what did I do? I tried a bunch of things, honestly, like petting him and praising him and trying to be his friend and spending lots of time with him, and he still didn't like me. So I went to my last resort and I used food. I tried just keeping hay initially in front of him in like a hay net, and I think it worked for like a day. But we ended up compromising on his favoriteest thing in the world, and that's his hay cube soup. I'd feed him a bit of hay cubes with lots of water, and he would be way too busy splashing and slurping up his soup to be concerned about me dealing with his wound. I compromised. Once he did heal, he was bandage free in the springtime. And I had already lost the show season the year before because he was obviously healing. So I kind of was at a crossroads. Do I start legging him up and get him ready for a show season that was coming in a month or two? Or do I kind of look at this thing holistically and from a relationship point of view? Do I prioritize getting my horse to actually like me again? I decided that we needed to just be friends again. He felt pretty salty at me after all of the wound cleaning, and rightfully so. That summer, I just prioritized building back his condition, being with each other in places that we liked, and we slowly found our way back to a balanced relationship. And that just took time and feel and patience, but I think he likes me again, so I think we're in a better spot.
I would say he likes you. He gets grumpy when he doesn't see you enough.
Yeah, exactly.
I think this is a great way of also talking about what is more important to you. Mm-hmm. And one is not right or wrong. It's what's important to you. Is the show season more important to you? And then building the relationship you can through that? Or is it just trying to build that relationship to the point where you can do a show season without any quote unquote issues?
Yeah. And the other thing too, I sacrificed our relationship because I wanted his wound to heal as best as possible.
Absolutely.
So I could have just kicked him out and, fed him treats and rode him, but I'm honestly very proud to say that his wound and his scar is very minimal because I really, really prioritized the care and the treatment of it. And I know he didn't like me in the moment, but I don't regret him not liking me for that short period of time, because as a result of that discipline and sticking to cleaning that wound as diligently as I did.
And also kind of pushing his boundary, which you had to do in that time.
Yeah. As a result, he's not lame, he's sound, and the scar is minimal, and he's going to have hopefully plenty of show seasons to come. That's kind of another thing to maybe think about is, it might just be a season, but prioritizing what you want to focus on and being mindful about what you're sacrificing and knowing that it's temporary, but looking at the big picture. And for me, it was, I want my horse to be happy and healthy, and for him to have the least amount of time in this bandage and in the healing process. So I kind of had to sacrifice him liking me for a short period of time. And was it ideal? Did it suck? Yeah, kind of, but I don't regret it.
That's an injury that kind of occurs, and it's a case that you don't see as often, where you have to sacrifice, you know, that boundary and that balance. Something that it might be a little bit more common for people is if you're training a horse or you're working with a young horse or a horse that you're just new to, sometimes it's really hard to maintain a balance with them. You know, I'm going to talk about my own horse, Rumor. I love Rumor. Rumor's a young horse. He's about 5 now. And I got him when he was 2.5, and he literally had no type of training. Like, he wasn't really halter broke, nothing. I had already worked with another horse earlier that went lickety split. Everything just clicked all the time. And to be honest, it would have been considered one of the easiest horses to train because he just got everything, and you didn't have to really make him think about a lot of things. And then I got Rumor, and I was like, yeah, this is exactly what's going to happen. Spoiler alert, that's not what happened. You know, it took a lot for us to create any type of relationship. He despised me probably for the first 3 months because he had no idea what was going on. I think he felt kidnapped. He was like, I don't know what's going on. He was like, screw you, lady. I just want to eat snacks and run away from you. And not even my snacks. He wouldn't even eat out of my hand. Like, I'm not even kidding you. He was like, run away. That lady's scary. And I went, whoa, what did I get myself into? Because this is not how I expected it to go. And I found myself often getting very frustrated with him because he would just panic and he'd try and run me over. So that was always fun. And I was like, what the heck? I'm trying to do all the good things and you just don't want to listen. And we had no balance in that relationship because I was getting frustrated with him. He was getting frustrated with what I was asking for. I wasn't giving him the time to really, or the space, I guess, to really process things because I was so used to, oh, this is how it worked with this last one. You know, I got on, I did this, and it was just snap, snap, snap. And I didn't have to give him time to think about anything. And he just was like that. Where Rumor is, if anybody knows him, he's quite sensitive and he's really smart, which is like sometimes an issue. He just knows things, but he also needs so much reassurance and he really needs space to really think things through. And you need to really give him the time because even when he kind of relaxes, he's like not fully relaxed. So you really have to make sure he's like relaxed. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, he just is so tense about something. He'll do it, but he hates doing it the whole time. Mm-hmm. And I had to learn to really balance my expectations of him and knowing that they were kind of unrealistic with the horse that I had in front of me. And I needed to really readjust my way of doing things with him. And when I learned to take that step back and see what he needed from me and readjust what I did with him, we started to move forward quite rapidly comparatively. You know, it took me 3 months to really get him to accept a halter, and that was brutal. Mm-hmm. And then after that, when I finally slowed down, all of a sudden he'd come running up to me in the field and he was like, all right, Mom, do it. Mm-hmm. Let's go. He was like 3 and 4 years old, and I took him to some huge events where people would comment and say, wow, how old's your horse? They didn't really realize how young he was. They're like, he looks so young, but he's so calm. He's so confident in you. And that all came because I learned to balance my expectations, mm-hmm. and I learned how to readjust my approach to work for him. Mm-hmm. Because I think I was burning him out too. I was putting him in such a state of stress, and I'm happy to admit that I learned from that because you know what? We don't know what we don't know, and I'm not going to say I'm perfect and I'm the best horse person mm-hmm. in the world because I'm not.
Mm-hmm. We all do the best that we can with the information that we have.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I'm proud to say that he's gone to these really major events, and you know, we did that together based on our relationship, not because he was forced to, mm-hmm. but because he was willing to, because he trusted me. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a pretty relatable thing for young horses or, you know, a more challenging horse. Just giving that space, because maybe they need 3 days to figure it out, you know, and that's okay. Yes. That doesn't mean you're a bad horse person, and it also doesn't mean your horse is bad.
Mm-hmm. Check out your expectations. Balance your expectations, because they're going to be different for each and every horse. Alrighty, we hope you enjoyed this episode, and please remember that balance is not a final destination. It requires constant adjusting and readjusting. Shifting of the scale as things change in life. Compassion, communication, and care go both ways in any true partnership.
Remember that what works now might not work in the future, and that's okay. Be open to changing and adapting through the phases of your life, your horse's life, and make balance one of your highest priorities, because that's the only way you really get through life in a successful way. Your horse will thank you for it, and I think you'll thank yourself.
Absolutely.
Thank you again for listening to the Uncinched podcast. We really appreciate all the support we've received, and we love that you like to listen to us, because sometimes we like to ramble, and we still think we're funny, but you know, we're glad you also think we're funny. If you like this podcast, please hit the subscribe button and share with your friends. We want them to hear how funny we are as well. We will see you in the next episode. So, goodbye. Bye.